Hi, for those who don't know me, my name is James. Forrest Gump is an incredible film. There is no doubt about it. It won 6 Oscars, including Best Picture, in the year beating The Shawshank Redemption, despite the latter often claiming the top spot on the best films of all time lists. The film is well directed, has an excellent script, has great sound and music, and incredible acting. But ultimately, I think people love the film Forrest Gump because it tells us a story. It is fantastic storytelling. We have a simple man, Forrest Gump, who is sitting on a bench, simply telling us his story. And what a story it is. The opening scene on the bench tells us so much about the character that we journey with for almost 2.5 hours. Forrest is a simple guy. He takes interest in a small white feather floating around, putting it safely in his box of memories. Forrest introduces himself politely to someone very different to himself, a black woman in work uniform, then offers her something that he really likes, chocolate, before he takes one for himself, and then compliments the lady on her shoes. Forrest is a lovable guy, not just because of his simplicity, but because of the virtues on display in his character throughout his life in the film. I wonder, what virtues did you recognise in Forrest Gump's character, and what might we learn from him? The particular questions I ask will be in the comments section below. One of the things that hooks us further into Forrest's story is how it relates to American history. This is particularly focused on rights for black people, assassination attempts on presidents, and of course the Vietnam War. But ultimately, this historical backdrop is just that, a backdrop to the lens firmly focused on Forrest's life. This amazing life from simple beginnings that accomplishes so much and moves us so greatly. We will laugh with him, we will certainly laugh at him, and we will cry with him. Telling stories of our life with Jesus, of our faith, can be a great way of witnessing to others. Do you believe that God can use your stories to impact the lives of others? Perhaps you might want to consider asking the Spirit for more opportunities and more boldness to do that. When it comes to themes in Forrest Gump, there are almost too many to list and lots of overlaps between them, but I'm going to give it a quick go before focusing on the one that I think is most significant. Love, relationship, companionship and friendship is a key one. We see 4 significant relationships for Forrest, with his mother, of course, with Bubba, Lieutenant Dan, and the love of his life, Jenny. On the flip side of this, there is the theme of loneliness, death and loss, which Forrest experiences at various points in his life. Opportunity and accomplishment. Forrest has opportunities to play American football, to join the army, to play table tennis, to go shrimping, to run, and he achieves greatly in each of these areas through hard work and dedication, and maybe a little bit of natural talent too. Childhood abuse and childhood encouragement is a theme that works itself out throughout the whole film. Jenny and Forrest have very different starts to their lives, and we see this play out for them. This links with the theme of overcoming difficulties or problems. Forrest, it's intelligence. For Jenny, it's her traumatic start to her life. For Lieutenant Dan, it's the loss of his legs. I'd really like to recommend this book to you. It's called How to Talk to a Movie. That's How to Talk to a Movie. It's a book about how to engage with films as a spiritual discipline. See below comments for details on the book. It is less than 100 pages long, and it's easy to read, and it outlines how to listen first to a film and then to respond to it. One thing it talks about is how films usually have a character or characters spending a lot of time trying to achieve or overcome or gain something, and that is why I love the restorative wedding scene towards the end of Forrest Gump. Finally, Forrest is together with Jenny. Jenny, although dying, is finally living well, and Lieutenant Dan seems so content, so happy. We can unpack all of these themes in relation to the Christian faith, but really, I'd like you to do that. Pick a film that stood out to you. How is the way that it's presented connect with Christian faith and your discipleship? But what I want to focus on is the main theme for me. You might not agree that it's the main theme, and that's okay. I think the main theme is bookended by the floating feather in the opening and the closing credits, and is highlighted by 3 very significant monologues in the film at significant points. It's the theme of destiny. Monologue 1. Lieutenant Dan pulls Forrest to the floor in military hospital and berates him. Is angry at him for saving his life. Again and again he uses the word destiny. It was, he says, his destiny to die in the war, like his ancestors. Forrest has cheated him. It wasn't supposed to be like this. It is all part of a plan, Lieutenant Dan says, and Forrest has broken it. Monologue 2. Forrest speaks to his mum on her deathbed, and she explains that death is something we're all destined to go through, that she didn't know that she was destined to be Forrest's mum. When Forrest asked her, "What is my destiny?" she says that's something you have to figure out for yourself, and she thinks that you make your own destiny and do your best with whatever God has given you. Monologue 3. Right towards the end, Forrest speaks at Jenny's grave and summarises these 2 views, saying he isn't quite sure who's right, Lieutenant Dan or his mum. He concludes that maybe it's a bit of both. Maybe life is about floating on a breeze like the feather, or that we do have a destiny written in front of us, but somehow these are both at work at the same time. I think in some ways this chimes with Christian thought. God, yes, has an ultimate destination for where the world is heading with the new heavens and the new earth, and this is good news. But also humanity has been given a huge amount of freedom to make choices and decisions, and they impact things. Drilling down into the more personal, the Bible talks about Christians being co-workers with God, 1 Corinthians 3:9 and 2 Corinthians 6:1, and also that we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do, Ephesians 2:10. Think about the theme of destiny in the film. How do you see your walk with God? Is everything planned out for you, or is it much more of a collaborative thing? There are loads of explicit mentions of God, of prayer, of heaven in the film, and I don't really want to dwell on these, but just mention something briefly. Forrest believes in miracles, indeed happening every day, he says. Prayer is answered in 2 really explicit ways in the film. There is the praying for shrimp when he goes to church, and a storm destroys all of the shrimping boats apart from his. And secondly, in Jenny's childhood prayer, she asks God to make her a bird so she can fly away. She is then removed by the police from the care of her dad into a safer environment. And I think too this prayer is answered in her death. Forrest turns from walking away from her grave as many birds fly over. William Temple, a previous Archbishop of Canterbury, said this: "When I pray, coincidences happen, and when I don't, they don't." How does prayer in Forrest Gump and the William Temple quote connect with your experience of prayer? And then briefly, 2 further reflections. On Jenny's deathbed, Forrest recollects his life, and she says that she should have been with him throughout it. Forrest answers that she was. God is with us through our lives and through all our experiences close to us. And second, in some ways Forrest is like God and Jenny is like us, in the way that Forrest just keeps on loving her, wanting the best for her, wanting her to come home, sending her messages in the form of letters. Jenny wanders towards him and away from him, and she's only really fully herself and at peace when she is with him. And that's all I have to say about that.